Some men attract attention with words, others with status. But there is another kind of man whose power is far more unsettling. The man who remains unmoved. He does not chase. He does not seek permission to be valued. He does not bend himself into pleasing every woman he meets. And for that very reason, he often becomes the one she thinks about the most. There is a psychology behind this, one far deeper than attraction on the surface. Because when a woman encounters a man who is calm, self-contained, and difficult to shake, something subtle begins to happen in her mind. Curiosity sharpens, emotional tension rises, and interest takes on a different form. In this video, you will discover why this happens, what female psychology reveals about emotional restraint, and how true inner stability creates a presence that desperate men can never imitate. You will also learn the crucial difference between genuine strength and empty detachment, a difference most people never fully understand. Watch until the end, because what seems like indifference at first may reveal one of the most misunderstood truths about women and psychological attraction. Before we dive in, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. There is a certain kind of man women do not forget. He is not the loudest, not the neediest, not the one trying to win every room. He does not rush to impress. He does not panic when attention shifts. He does not collapse when a woman pulls away. And somehow, that makes him harder to ignore. Because in a world full of men chasing validation, the man who stays composed begins to feel different, more grounded, more mysterious, more powerful. And that raises a deeper question. Why does a woman often become more curious about the man who does not chase? Why does emotional restraint create more tension than emotional urgency? And why does the man who seems least desperate for attention often become the one she keeps thinking about? The answer is not as shallow as most people assume. This is not simply about playing hard to get. It is not about manipulation. And it is definitely not about becoming cold. What is really happening goes deeper than dating advice. It reaches into psychology, emotional regulation, perception, attachment, and the unspoken signals people read in each other every single day. Because whether people admit it or not, human beings are always reading beneath words. They read energy, they read timing, they read overreaction, they read self-control, they read whether someone is present or performing. And women in particular often notice something many men completely miss. A man's behavior reveals what he believes about himself long before he ever says it out loud. That is where this entire dynamic begins. Because when a man chases too hard, tries too hard, explains too much, texts too much, proves too much, and reaches too quickly, he may think he is showing desire. But very often what he is actually revealing is instability. Not always weakness in the dramatic sense, but emotional imbalance, a lack of inner steadiness. And that changes how he is perceived. Because the issue is not effort itself. Effort can be beautiful. The issue is the emotional state behind the effort. There is a difference between sincere interest and anxious pursuit. A difference between warmth and pressure. A difference between presence and hunger. And women can often feel that difference long before they can explain it. That is why the man who does not chase can feel so psychologically striking. He creates contrast. He does not enter the interaction trying to extract worth from it. He is not speaking from emotional scarcity. He is not acting as if every woman he meets has the power to define him. And because of that, his attention feels different. It feels deliberate, not cheap, not frantic, not sprayed everywhere in the hope that something sticks. That changes the emotional atmosphere immediately. Now here is where things get interesting. Most people think attraction grows when more attention is given. But the human mind is not that simple. What the mind often responds to most intensely is not constant availability. It is meaningful uncertainty, not toxic confusion, not games, not mixed signals designed to create emotional dependency, but uncertainty in the sense that not everything is instantly revealed. When a man is too eager too quickly, there is no psychological tension, no mystery, no depth to explore. Everything arrives at once. But when a man is calm, grounded, selective, and emotionally measured, something different happens. The mind starts asking questions. Why is he so composed? Why is he not reacting like everyone else? Why does he seem so unaffected? Is he uninterested or just self-contained? Is he distant or disciplined? Is he hard to impress or simply at peace with himself? And once those questions begin, curiosity starts doing its work. That is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. The mind returns to what it has not fully solved. It revisits what feels significant but incomplete. It circles what appears meaningful but still slightly hidden. That is why certain people linger in the mind longer than others. Not because they were louder, because they were less obvious. And when that subtle mystery is paired with steadiness instead of chaos, it becomes even more compelling, because chaos repels, mystery invites. This is where many men make a costly mistake. They hear that women are drawn to men who do not chase, and they imitate the surface instead of understanding the substance, so they become colder, more detached, more emotionally unavailable, more robotic. They think silence is strength, distance is masculinity, and indifference is attractive. But that is not power. That is often just fear in a sharper outfit. A man who is grounded is not emotionally dead. He is emotionally governed. He feels, he notices, he cares. But he does not let his emotions turn him into someone undignified. He does not beg for reassurance. He does not panic the moment uncertainty appears. He does not lose his center because someone is attractive. That is what makes his presence different. He is not absent. He is contained. And containment is one of the most underrated forms of strength. Because when a man is deeply ruled by the fear of losing attention, his behavior becomes noisy. He starts over-pursuing, over-speaking, over-giving, over-reading, overreacting. And the more he does that, the more he unconsciously communicates that he is not operating from fullness. He is operating from lack. That matters because people do not just respond to words. They respond to what your behavior says your nervous system believes. If your behavior says, "Please choose me so I can feel valuable," that lands very differently from, "I value connection, but I do not abandon myself to get it." That second energy is rare, and rarity changes perception. In social psychology, perceived value is constantly shaped by behavior. People infer worth from self-respect, emotional control, standards, and selectivity. Not always accurately, of course, but perception does not wait for perfect truth. It moves fast, and often unconsciously. A man who does not chase is frequently perceived as someone who has options, standards, or a strong sense of identity. Even if the woman never says that directly, she may feel it. His restraint appears to mean something. It suggests he is not ruled by impulse, not easily destabilized, not available to everyone, not starving for approval. And all of those impressions can intensify attraction. Because attraction is not only about beauty or chemistry, it is also about psychological meaning. What does this person's behavior say about them? What kind of emotional life do they have? What happens when pressure enters the room? Do they become erratic or more calm? That last question matters more than most people realize, because many women, consciously or unconsciously, observe how a man responds to emotional uncertainty. Not because they are all running tests in a manipulative sense, but because human beings naturally study each other under pressure. Pressure reveals structure. Anyone can seem attractive when everything is easy. Anyone can seem confident when everything is going their way. But what happens when replies slow down? When attention becomes inconsistent? When the emotional temperature changes? That is when hidden patterns begin to surface. Some men become frantic. Some become resentful. Some become performative. Some become passive-aggressive. Some start giving more and more, hoping effort will rescue uncertainty. But the grounded man does something else. He stays coherent. He does not rush to force clarity where clarity has not yet naturally emerged. He does not collapse into neediness. He does not turn one moment of ambiguity into a crisis of identity. And that composure can be incredibly attractive because it signals something deeper than confidence. It signals self-possession. That word matters. Self-possession. The ability to remain yourself in the presence of desire, in the presence of beauty, in the presence of uncertainty, in the presence of emotional risk. Most people are not nearly as self-possessed as they appear. They are stable only until they want something badly. Then their center disappears. That is why the man who remains inwardly ordered stands out so strongly. He is not trying to conquer the moment. He is inhabiting it. He is not trying to secure himself through another person's approval. He is bringing an already formed self into the interaction. That is one reason his energy can feel so different. And there is another layer here most people never talk about. A woman does not only respond to a man's direct behavior toward her, she also responds to the emotional world that behavior suggests. When a man seems grounded, purposeful, and not obsessed with being liked, he gives the impression that his life has weight beyond the interaction itself. He appears to belong to something larger than the immediate moment: his work, his mission, his discipline, his principles, his inner order. That can be deeply compelling because it suggests that romance is not the center of his identity. It is part of life, not his entire source of meaning. And that creates a very different emotional dynamic. Now, to be clear, this does not mean women want men who are distant, harsh, or impossible to reach. That idea has confused a lot of people. The attractive quality is not deadness, it is non-neediness. Those are not the same. Deadness makes people feel unseen. Non-neediness makes people feel that your connection is chosen, not extracted. Deadness withholds warmth. Non-neediness protects dignity. Deadness says, I do not care. Non-neediness says, I can care without losing myself. That distinction changes everything, and it is backed by what we know about attachment and emotional regulation. Research published through the American Psychological Association has shown that attachment patterns strongly shape how people express emotion and respond in romantic relationships. People with more anxious tendencies often react more intensely to ambiguity and seek reassurance in ways that can destabilize connection, while more secure patterns are associated with steadier emotional responses. Related work discussed by the Greater Good Science Center points to how rumination and anxious looping can intensify emotional distress in close relationships, especially when someone becomes fixated on uncertainty instead of grounded in self-regulation. Now notice what that means in ordinary life. When a man does not chase, that may sometimes reflect something very simple and very powerful. He is not outsourcing his emotional balance. He is not asking the interaction to regulate him. He is regulating himself. That difference can completely transform how he is experienced. Because calm people feel different. Not boring calm. Not lifeless calm. Settled calm. The kind of calm that makes other people feel less crowded, less managed, less pressured, less emotionally cornered. And in a culture full of urgency, settled calm feels rare. It feels expensive. But there is still one more truth here, and it may be the most important one. Not every man who does not chase is healthy. Some are disciplined. Some are wounded. Some are self-possessed. Some are emotionally shut down. Some are selective because they value depth. Some are distant because they are afraid of being known. At first, these men can look similar, but over time, the difference becomes undeniable. The disciplined man is calm, but present. He is measured, but sincere. He does not flood the connection, but he does not starve it either. He can care clearly. He can communicate honestly. He can show warmth without becoming dependent. The wounded man is different. He often hides behind ambiguity. He receives attention but struggles to reciprocate it. He stays hard to read, not because he is deep, but because he is defended. And eventually, that stops feeling mysterious. It starts feeling lonely. That is why maturity matters more than strategy. Because the real goal is not to become the man who never chases. The real goal is to become the man who no longer needs to. That is a completely different thing. One is performance. The other is transformation. One is a tactic. The other is character. And character is what sustains attraction after curiosity begins. Because curiosity may open the door. But what keeps someone emotionally engaged is depth, steadiness, and trustworthiness. The man who creates lasting impact is not the one who masters detachment. It is the one who masters himself. He knows that attention is not love. He knows that urgency is not depth. He knows that being desired means very little if he has to betray his dignity to receive it. So he moves differently. He listens without chasing. He shows interest without surrendering structure. He remains warm without becoming needy. He allows space without disappearing. He values connection without worshiping it. And that balance is rare enough to be unforgettable. So when a woman becomes deeply curious about a man who does not chase, what she is often responding to is not indifference. It is the suggestion of inner order, the feeling that this man is not emotionally available to chaos, that he is not desperate to be chosen, that he does not hand his identity to the room and wait to get it back. That kind of presence carries weight, because beneath attraction, beneath flirtation, beneath all the rituals of modern relationships, people are still looking for something timeless. Someone who can feel deeply without drowning in feeling. Someone who can care sincerely without collapsing into need. Someone whose attention means something because it comes from intention, not hunger. And that is why the calm man can become so powerful in a woman's mind, not because he is empty, but because he is ordered, not because he rejects connection, but because he respects it too much to turn it into desperation. And once you understand that, the whole picture changes. What looked like indifference begins to look like discipline. What looked like distance begins to look like discernment. And what seemed at first like emotional absence may actually be one of the clearest signs of inner maturity. Because in the end, the man who truly stands out is not the one who needs nothing. It is the one who wants with wisdom. If this spoke to you, stay close, because the next video goes even deeper into the hidden psychology of attraction, emotional power, and the subtle behaviors that quietly shape how people value you. Now it's on your screen. Why some women get commitment easily while others get confusion. A deep truth you shouldn't miss. Like the video and subscribe to the channel.